My name is John Hand, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Eurocult, where we talk about the strange and odd in European cinema. I'm here with my co-host, Mike Engel, and today we're going to be talking about probably one of the most exciting European films of the past few years, probably one of the most exciting films, period, of the past few years, Pascal Laugier's 2008 French horror masterpiece, Martyrs. Hey, Mike. Hey, how's it going?
It's going well.
It's going well?
You were talking about this brilliant piece of filmmaking, Martyrs, from 2008, which actually, strangely enough, being a horror aficionado that I am, I was kind of late getting on board with this particular title, and it was definitely quite the experience sitting through that, watching that late one night. Yeah, there's definitely some things to talk about with this particular film.
Now, Martyrs begins in a dank torture chamber as a young girl is being tortured by these kind of unseen evil people. She escapes and goes to live in a foster home, and she strikes up this relationship with this other young girl who's in the same kind of situation. And then 10, 15 years later, it cuts forward to a scene where this young girl who's grown up, Lucy, exacts bloody revenge on a group
on the perpetrators, allegedly, at this point in the film. We're not sure.
The alleged perpetrators of her torture as a young girl. And who are these torturers? Who are these evil fellows?
Yeah, that's one of the things of taking the ride in this film that the filmmaker very clearly is putting forth to the viewer is this person has no qualms about taking you on a ride, and all preconceived notions are put to the side on this journey. When you're partaking, you're experiencing this film. It's not you're not a passive viewer experiencing what this film has to give you. You actually are on a ride that the filmmaker is completely in control of.
Yeah, that's one of the most inventive things about this film. What makes it so great is that nothing in this film can be taken at face value. We begin toward the beginning of the film with this scene of a calm, serene morning where a family is waking up, getting ready to go, getting ready for work. There's some banal discussion amongst the children and the adults of how their life is going to go for the rest of the day or the school semester, and then the father of this family opens the door, and who is there standing before but this woman who was tortured years ago, and then begins this concussive violence where this woman, Lucy, kills the entire family. And it's such a surprise, I mean, the film just takes you by the neck, and Lucy, the main character, who's tortured from the beginning, has grown up, who now kills his family. She's being haunted by these apparitions, by these demons, kind of very reminiscent of, you're watching the film and you're kind of locked into a groove of modern horror, and you're thinking, okay, this is like The Grudge. These are like, Japanese ghosts, because these apparitions, this one particular apparition is constantly trying to kill her, to get at her.
Yeah, upon the only viewing of this film that I've done at this point, this apparition, I wasn't really sure. I didn't want to go into this film because I know that, from my understanding, you've seen this film, obviously, before I have.
Yeah,
and the less that I really knew, the overall picture of the story I had an understanding of from talking to you, but the subtle things that occurred in the film and what happened and at what times those things happen, I very much wanted to experience to kind of like take in the full like brunt of the film.
Yeah.
First off, the actress that played Lucy, she had a very believable sort of angst, and like this character really did. She wasn't just some sort of like pretentious sort of actress that was like going through the motions. You really believe from watching this character of Lucy that she really did experience these sorts of things.
Yeah.
And that works in favor of what the filmmaker was wanting thematically too. When you're watching the film, I got the feel that you go into this film right away, or at least I did, where you're not necessarily expecting Lucy is going to be really a victim. Like I went into this personally, as I said, introduced to this character of Lucy and understanding, okay, well, this girl had these tragic things occur, but the way she's introduced in the film and the way that the succession of set pieces kind of play out is you right away kind of warm up to this family you're introduced to. And as you said, this thing where they're having this conversation over breakfast and they're having the cereal and they're just having like a typical sort of regular family sort of scenario, and then bam, just out of nowhere, the door opens and the gun starts going off, and then blood starts ensuing and carnage ensues, and you're like, wow, like okay, this is something interesting here.
Yeah. I mean, Lucy. I get what you're saying about how the one thing about this film is so great is that it is, for a film which has been, I think, mischaracterized as part of this loose subgenre of torture porn. It's been kind of lumped in with this. When Martyrs came out in 2008, it was kind of riding the wave of this kind of new wave French horror. There were films like Frontiers and other films which came out and were in the same group, in the same class. But to me, Martyrs shines head and above in all these people, and it's such an emotional film and such an emotional ride. And you're correct. You feel Lucy's emotional, her angst, her depth, and her eyes. And she comes off to me as like a very like a kind of she looks like Sophie Marceau. She has that kind of delicate atmosphere about her, and you feel her pain. Ethereal. Much more ethereal than Sophie Marceau, actually.
Lucy, from the beginning of the film, they show the introduction of the film that leads into like the title sequence of the film is Lucy apparently getting away from these captors that you never actually see their face at this point, so you're not really sure, again, like as we discussed, if a lot of this is just going on in her head or what the hell is going on with her characters. But what ties her escaping to the scene where she shows up at the family's house is there's a photograph that the filmmakers draw attention to. There's a photograph on the refrigerator of basically the husband and wife, who are the mom and dad, obviously, of the young man and the young lady at the house. And I believe that it was like a swim tournament that their daughter was in. Yeah. And that's how Lucy made the connection that these are the people that were my captors. Was apparently this was in a newspaper, and that's how she came across that, which is how she ended up at the house. And there's a lot of little visual things throughout the film, like the blood on the neck of Baldy when he supposedly had done such a pristine job of cleaning himself up.
It also struck me at the beginning that the introduction of the family, the mother character, comes when she's doing some plumbing outside the house on this. Looking back on it, this gigantic, and it's got to be the plumbing for this industrial structure underneath the house. There's no way that even a big suburban house like that would have the kind of plumbing structure that she's working on. It's little things like that.
One of the things too, one of the scenes that was very powerful and kind of stuck out in my mind too was the fact that the son in the family, Lucy basically levels a shotgun at like basically chest level at this son who's sitting at the breakfast table, who's just witnessed his family just basically get blown away by Lucy. Yeah. and Lucy asks the son, "Do you know what your parents have done?" And the son, we're made as viewers of the film to sympathize with the son, who's just sitting here, who has no idea that his family, or that his mom and dad were, obviously affiliated with this organization somehow, and were doing these horrific things for years to these martyrs. And the son, you're not really sure if Lucy's going to shoot him or not, and the son's just kind of sitting there bewildered, like very innocently, like, he doesn't know what to do. He's like sitting there like, this is just like a home invasion sort of situation to him. Yeah. And then Lucy just, carries out blowing him away.
Yeah, the violence, that home invasion scene, the violence, as I said, is very concussive. It reminded me of the same kind of groundbreaking, transgressive type of thing when I first watched Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction. It was just like a punch, an atomic bomb from out of nowhere. I don't know if it hit you like that, but it just, for me, it was, I was going back to when I was watching those type of films. It felt fresh and new and innovative and aggressive, in that same way.
Yeah, those two Tarantino films, my experience with those were, it was like a fresh sort of feeling, and it was one of like, wow, okay, you got my attention. This is interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
But with Martyrs, it was more of like an uncomfortable, like, hey, you got my attention.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It's almost, to me, it was more akin to A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of with the invasion aspect, and this invasiveness of this outside element that's come into the seemingly friendly, loving family sort of convening over breakfast situation. Yeah, as far as the Spectre is concerned, at the time when you're watching the film, you're not quite sure if this Spectre, or however you want to refer to this sort of this creature, you're not sure if this creature is a figment of Lucy's imagination, or you're not really sure if this film almost starts out like it's like this is some sort of entity that is haunting her for some reason, but you
like
don't really,
you don't. Japanese ghost film.
Yeah, like you were explaining earlier, much akin to The Grudge, and we have this situation ensue where the family is pretty much like systematically just disposed of by Lucy.
Yeah,
and you basically have at this point, after this violence has ensued and the family has pretty much been eradicated.
She calls Anna. She calls her old friend who's been, I think, on the wait. I guess she was on. She knew this was going to happen. She knew that this somehow Lucy found out.
Anna's character in this film is basically like a sort of a surrogate sister to Lucy. And obviously, they're not directly related, but they were they came of age together in the same sort of foster environment, to where they're much akin to being sisters. And you can tell from Anna's character that she has tremendous feeling, but it's very empathetic towards Lucy, and she's very empathetic towards Lucy's plight. And at this point, you're not. Anna kind of demonstrates the fact that she knows that Lucy's very troubled, but she's not really sure as to what degree maybe Lucy may have some mental illness, some issues with what occurred, or even to what degree the whole situation, as Lucy has obviously off camera explained things to Anna as far as her plight. You're just kind of dropped into the middle of this situation, and all you know is that Anna and Lucy have this sort of symbiotic relationship.
Well, they create their own little world together. I mean, there's some hints that it's far more far more a sisterly relationship. There's that kissing scene in the shower, but there are two people who kind of create their own little world together, and
that's more akin to. I took that as it's not as. The conduit of which was acting out
in a certain sense. It's very,
Lucy precipitating that. It's more of a comfort because of her being exhibited to, or having to have experienced the things that Lucy clearly has experienced. she saw this as sort of a comfort and a connection, and it's not a sexual sort of.
No. And it's, to me, that's you're talking about the realism of the film, and I go along with these characters, that these two characters together could create their own world together where they could go out and do this and kill an entire family. And I feel it's also very real that people in real life are haunted by the specters of what was done to them, and they do manifest themselves sometimes, and almost like a monkey on someone's back as a ghost that is slicing at them, you know.
Well, and Anna,
and it eventually kills her, and eventually it slices at her and causes her to, make a little exit.
And we need to explain that. For those who haven't actually seen the film,
well, this isn't a spoiler zone. This show is,
we have a brief period of time where there's some kind of juxtaposition of some characterization with some things that happen, and
yes, where they do the cleanup. Yeah. They start with the cleanup because Anna can't think of anything else to do but to start cleaning up and getting rid of things.
Yeah, to cover for her.
To cover
so to
up,
speak.
yes, yeah.
And at this point, Lucy, in a suicidal sort of fashion, cuts her own throat and kills herself. This storyline goes from being Lucy's story, which you're expecting is going to be carried out throughout the film, to Anna becomes the main character and the person that you are on this ride with. Yeah. And this is where the themes of the film start to really come together when you're experiencing what happens here forward through the character of Anna.
Yeah, I mean the film is just, again, it's always playing and toying with your expectations of where you think this story is going to go. I mean, halfway through, you're right, it does the Janet Leigh thing. Lucy kills herself, and you're like, where can where can this story go? And then what happens is that Anna finds out that Lucy was right, that this, she begins to, snoop around, and what does she find? But underneath this kind of calm suburban house, there's this whole industrial structure underneath it, this compound, this torture compound.
Yeah, initially, Anna is...
She finds somebody in there.
Kind of making her way through the house, and...
I forget exactly how she finds it.
Well, I believe it's a flashlight, if I'm not mistaken. There's something on a shelf, with shelving, I believe in like a living room sort of area.
Yeah.
And it rolls back off the shelf, not forward, but back, and drops. And something indicates to her that hey, there's something here. Yeah. And she kind of fumbles around with the shelving and realizes that there's this hidden passageway that leads somewhere, and she's like, well, of course, got to go check this out and see what's going on here. So she goes behind the shelving, and lo and behold, there's a staircase there. Yes. And she makes her way to this subterranean sort of industrial hallway. And upon entering this, it's very interesting because it's a very sterile, very industrial, which is completely different than what this suburban sort of household is. So right away, you have this stark image that you're confronted with. Upon further investigation, going a little bit further into more of this subterranean area, she discovers that she's not alone. That there's somebody else down there, and it is another female who seems to have some binding on her.
Yeah,
chains,
completely naked.
Yeah, it's like for instance, she's got some sort of metallic blinder over her eyes. That's basically, you find out a short time later, has been screwed into her head, her skull. Yeah. And you get the idea that this particular female character that Anna comes across there in the subterranean area has been down there for like some time, maybe a matter of weeks, and has obviously been subjected to the same sort of torturous sort of activity that you're led to believe that Lucy was at the beginning of the film. Yes. And Anna, in a very maternal sort of fashion, comforts this female, and this female has basically been relegated to making grunts and is non-communicative verbally, just making grunts and noises, and basically ushers her upstairs, undoes the binding on the female on her skull, where that attachment, the metallic attachment's been made to cover the eyes up, and basically does what she really can at the moment to comfort this female, which is to have her in a bathtub and to have some running water, and basically to try and give her some sort of comfort while she figures out just what the hell she's gotten herself into.
Yeah, because I think you pointed out to me, we were just discussing this earlier, the deep sense of guilt that she has.
Yes.
For Lucy.
Yeah, because up until this point of the film, obviously when she starts to have the curtain pulled back, so to speak.
Yeah, she realized that Lucy was right.
Yeah, Anna has the empathy for Lucy, but at this point she's realizing that there's guilt for maybe the fact that she doubted Lucy, and to some degree doubted maybe the extent of what was going on. She's having to base this off of Lucy's allegations of what occurred to her, and even though she might not necessarily have believed it to a T and maybe thought that Lucy was having some issues of a mental illness sort of nature or delusional, that she still never was less than 100% with supporting Lucy emotionally with things. But as you say, at this point she's starting to really understand, hey, I've stumbled into something here, and this is not good. Yeah,
the total script is flipped. In fact, there is a school of thought on this film, is that the second part of the film is just totally inside Anna's head. That she has just so much guilt about this, that the strange and horrific occurrences that occur in the second part are just her torturing herself in the same way that Anna tortured herself, or rather that Lucy tortured herself with her apparition.
I take more of a literal...
I do too. I don't think... I take a literal as well.
Yeah, because I understand where people might be going with that school of thought, but I think that's like an easy cop-out. I think that the intent, and I could be wrong, but I believe that the intent through watching and experiencing this film was that you are taken on a ride and you're watching the transformation of the character of Anna, and you're seeing almost a chrysalis effect with Anna going from the empathetic sisterly figure to one of almost like losing innocence in a way.
She loses everything
when being confronted with this, to losing everything and having to make a decision, which we'll get to when we talk about more of the conclusion of the film.
Yes. And we will very soon, because we're kind of getting to the point where the meat of the film, where she's taking care of this woman she's found in the underground compound, and then who swoops in, but
rather just out of nowhere,
rather abruptly.
Yeah, the character is unnamed. This female character that Anna has rescued, so to speak. So you believe this female character starts kind of freaking out, for lack of a better term, and she starts going down the hallway and having like this frenzied sort of activity, and bam, yet again, out of nowhere, just you got a shock.
That same kind of concussive violence, in the same way that the family was killed, and
you have this female character who gets she takes a bullet to the head and just drops dead right there, and you're going, wow, what's going on now? And you are presented with a group of several unknown individuals who are all dressed in black, very European-styled, dressed, very militant sort of behaving, and you're going, okay, what do we got going on now?
Yes.
And we find out that this group shows up. I'm trying to think at this point, are we introduced to Mademoiselle, or don't they like secure Anna and render her unconscious first?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you got the main thug guy,
Yeah, Baldy.
Yeah. the guy who that drags her down into the compound.
Yeah, this is your basic. If you've seen any sort of like European like action film, this guy comes off as like the typical shaved head baddie who's like the big kind of muscle that gets things taken care of when there's a physical issue. But this guy, Baldy, I guess I'll call him. He and there's I know there's another woman who's there who's in this group of several individuals who we're not sure of who they are at this point. We do know that they are working in coordination with one another, and they seem to be, as I said, militant. They seem to be very regimented, I guess should be the better term.
Regiment is a good way to describe it. Why do you think it took them so long to get to the house after the family was killed? Because that was obviously the cover, for them. The family was obviously, part of it,
Well, I mean, that's really up for like.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything really deep to read into that.
No,
I think it helped the storyline across at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it is just again. I think questions that you bring up. There are a lot of questions like that. There's a lot of mysteries in Mars. Some of that stuff's kind of immaterial. But
I think we had to. I think it was if I had to give a concise answer for what I believe, really here put on the spot, I would say that. I think it was the writer and the filmmaker's intention that we had to experience, because this whole film was about experiencing things through Anna, and I think that we had to experience what she had to offer or to give or to have to go through with seeing how she is with this this female that she rescued seemingly from the lower depths of the house there. We had to see how she was a very nurturing sort of person who wanted to help and wanted to save this person. We had to experience that and had to have time to experience that so that we would be opened up to what kind of character that Anna truly had inside, so that the payoff of the film later had much more of an impact, so that you would understand what kind of person Anna was. So Anna is, I believe she's rendered unconscious, and then we have like the fade to black scene, of course, and so we come back from the fade to black and we see that Anna is secured to a chair and she's sitting at a little breakaway table in this hallway, and we have this very, very creepy woman who her character is Mademoiselle. And Mademoiselle is quite the very creepy sort of character. She very clearly has a position of authority over this regimented group. And she reminded me a bit of like a haggard sort of Gloria Swanson-esque sort of character with her little headpiece she had on. And Mademoiselle basically at this point in the film is there, and she is explaining to Anna that she is part of a group,
a cult,
organization of some sort.
Yes.
And their purpose at that point, you realize what this is about.
Yes.
Maybe not thematically, but as it's presented to you, what the agenda is. This group basically, they are taking individuals and they are impressing upon these individuals such degree in torture and pain and deprivation that the belief that Mademoiselle is presenting to Anna, that she explains to the character of Anna, is that through the experience of torture, deprivation, pain, just all these negative sorts of emotions that break down the individual, that at some point the individual loses all sort of hope, and because of the physical and the mental and emotional pain that they're exhibited to, that they get to a point of zen almost, where they can see the afterlife.
Yes.
They can taste the afterlife, in the hopes that whatever individual is experiencing this will be able to share with Mademoiselle and her group that have this agenda what exactly awaits on the other side. And we have explained from Mademoiselle that they make the statement that they have found that young ladies are more viable sorts of subjects. Yeah, so that's the word I'm looking for. So.
Yeah, and they also talk about how Lucy was the one that got away, and that their techniques have become far more refined. You wonder in like 10 or 15 years, how more refined they've gotten, because they went from Lucy, who was in this kind of industrial, kind of block, to this cold, clinical, like antiseptic. Yeah, the production design in this film is great. The soundtrack, we don't think we really talked much about that. The incredible mix of acoustic guitars and electronic instruments by the group Seppuku Paradigm. Just two guys who are doing some great stuff. And actually the soundtrack's available. You can download it for free on Seppuku Paradigm's website. But
for all you out there that want to have something very uplifting and pleasant to listen to,
I would roll around listening to it. I love it. So really,
it's music to have a picnic to.
Yeah. The last song, "Your Witness," is the song at the end of the film, and it's a really great song in English about the whole themes of the film. But anyway, getting back to where Mike was going, this after. What?
They don't happen to have like a cover of like "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head" on that soundtrack or something, right?
Okay. No, it's not Engelbert Humperdinck.
I think that was Albert Hammond or something.
Albert Hammond or Engelbert. Well, anyway, so as Mike was saying,
B.J. Thomas, I think.
B.J.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But we digress. Sorry.
Yeah. Sundance Kid, Butch Cassidy. Anyway. Yeah, so what Mike was getting at is that after Mademoiselle kind of lays out the whole scene, about what this film's about and what this group is going after.
Pardon me just a moment. By the way, the thing that I'm just kind of rolling this off organically as this comes into my mind. The one thing about this that really was it was not overplayed when you saw the Mademoiselle and you saw this group. They were not like some sort of crazy off-the-wall sort of group that shows up and they really lay it on heavy. They're very subtle. And they're very creepy in their subtleness. And the Mademoiselle's, her demeanor and her attitude is one of like almost exuberance. And it's not like relishing the fact that there's going to be something probably bad in store with Anna's character, but it's got to do with, it's almost clinical. Like the Mademoiselle is approaching this like it's some sort of project, and she's explaining to Anna not only what the organization is about, but basically you start to understand Anna's probably not in store for some very good times ahead. And the Mademoiselle's making that a bit clear, but it's not like a threat. It's delivered like, hey, you're going to be part of something big. You're going to be helping a cause bigger than yourself, and you're going to be providing us with the information you need. Now, true, you're going to be doing it against your will, because no one wants to like be, subject to torture and deprivation. But hey, all that aside, you're going to be part of a little project of ours,
Yes, and that's just about what I was about to get to. In the beginning of the project, we realize exactly what that entails, and what that entails is probably about 10 or 15 minutes of just pure torture, basically.
Yeah, I think it was more like 15 to 20. Like when I was doing a little reading up on it, and obviously when I'm watching the movie, I wasn't looking at the clock, but
it feels like forever.
But with that being said, I made the comment that there's not a frame in this film that not only is just put in there as filler, but there's not a frame in this film that's put in, because this film could have easily been really played up with the exploitive nature of things, but it's not an exploitive film. It's not like you're watching Hostel and there's just stuff put in there where you're like, okay, let's just see what kind of horrid crap we can do to these characters. This stuff's put in this film, and it's very artful, and it's very...
Everything's justified.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You're not getting people that are like, just having their legs sawed off or something, and you're going, oh, geez, that's horrible, and you're having the whole time reinforced that you're watching a character, this person that you have some sort of investment in emotionally, this character of Anna, and you're starting to see what she's having to go through, and as John was saying, you're having just like minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes of her being subjected alternatively to Baldy coming down and beating her senseless, and she's strapped to some sort of metallic chair. She's sitting motionless in a room facing a wall, sometimes for hours upon hours. They don't give you an exact time, but they give you the impression that you slowly are starting to see her just wearing away. You start to see her slowly start to lose hope that she's going to get out of her shackles, and they have her basically subdued and basically strapped down to a metallic chair where she is forced to have to defecate and urinate through a opening aperture in the seat into a pail that's put under the chair. Yeah. And she's just exhibited these extremely inhumane and just these forms of deprivation, as well as being beaten. Yeah. And you're led to believe from the filmmaker, from watching this succession of events as they transpire, that this is just days and days and days and days and days of being subjected to this, and it's alternating between beatings and being force-fed some sort of gruel food. I mean, it looks like some sort of pudding or something. It's really...
I know some people on the IMDb have tried to come up with a good recipe for that, actually.
Really? Well, I guess there are some really sick people out there.
I don't know. I think they've been trying to...
I do have to question if this is on their viewing, like their must viewing on a weekly basis, I think they might need to be checked out by a therapist, because this is a really... it's a brilliant film, as we said earlier, but it is very hard watching this film.
Oh, yeah.
And I know something between John and I that is a bit of a, if we can kind of digress a little bit.
Go ahead, do it.
Something that's a little bit of a friendly debate point between John and I is John's quite the fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original classic and brilliant film.
Yeah.
This may be more nostalgic than anything, but I tend to be more on the original Dawn of the Dead or the original Halloween as far as being classics. And where I'm going with this is my primary reason for not really having Texas Chainsaw Massacre held up to the same degree that I would with Dawn of the Dead or Halloween would be that although Chainsaw very clearly is a classic and is a brilliant film, it's well shot, it's a very visceral film, this film, Martyrs, reminds me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in that it is a cruel film. It is cruel when you're watching it, and I'm not meaning that judgmentally. What I'm saying is it takes a lot out of you watching it. It's like Schindler's List. It's a brilliant piece of art, but it takes a toll on you with what you're asked to partake in this film, and that's actually a compliment to the filmmaker and all parties involved with the making of the film.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's also it shares a kinship with Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the sense that I think why it gets to you so much is because it has such an emotional impact, and you feel for these people. I guess maybe less so in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but also the violence in the film I don't think is as bad as I think people amplify in their own minds. Really. I think there have been films that are far gorier and in some senses far more explicit than Martyrs. Definitely more than Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but you just kind of, in your head, you imagine more.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point. When you say something like that, the first thing that comes to mind is Psycho. People always remember the shower scene, oh, that's so bloody, and actually, the only time that you see a little bit of blood is when it's going down the shower.
Yeah.
And it's all in the execution of Vivian Lee's character. It's interesting when you say that. I was thinking about Dawn of the Dead, and obviously with Tom Savini's makeup effects and gore that's in Dawn of the Dead, that is a hell of a lot more visceral than anything in Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Martyrs, like as far as being blatantly visceral. And when I say that it's a cruel film, it's really tough, that's really interesting because I got to think about, with all the kind of carnage that's in Dawn of the Dead, and then you're looking at something like that's more... It has more of an unsettledness or unsettling nature to it, like Martyrs or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's almost like a documentary feel. You feel like you are someone who's in the room, just kind of like as a bystander, kind of having to view this, and you're like, wow, it's like a car wreck. You can't take your eye away from what's going on to these characters, and you're like, this is a nightmare. And whereas like a Dawn of the Dead sort of film, there's some comedic elements to it and obviously, things of that nature. But, Martyrs is, it's not, it's like an experience more so than something that, like I would watch a Halloween or Dawn of the Dead or something like that a lot more than, like this kind of horror is just, it's like, I guess a film like to me that comes to mind would be, like I said, Texas Chainsaw Massacre or The Exorcist. In that is something, it's got a psychological horror to it. And hey, I mean, the filmmakers did a hell of a job bestowing that uneasiness on the viewer.
I had to say, I was even far more engaged in a Lucy and Anna's plight than I was anything in The Exorcist. I mean, it's a really emotional film.
Now, does Rob Zombie need to remake this?
I think so. Well, we can go on. We can maybe talk about the remake a little bit because it is being remade.
Oh no! Don't tell me that.
It's up for being for the remake with Kristen Stewart. I think is
good
slated possibly to be in it at this point. We don't know at the time of this broadcast. We're not sure where that is. It could maybe never happen. Hopefully. But anyway, speaking of concussive violence and things being more graphic than they are, after Lucy gets beaten and tortured and chained up and all that stuff, it leads up to her final act there, their final act of cruelty toward her.
Yeah, apparently they de-skin her basically.
Yes, they flay her.
Yeah, what
very
this
kind of medieval type thing, medieval, but done on a very clinical medical manner.
Yeah, after this 15 minutes or so of just repetitive torture and depraved behavior,
yes,
and deprivation, what occurs basically is you do see Anna apparently hearing Lucy talking to her in her head, so to speak. And you get this sort of impending feeling that this is culminating towards something.
Yes.
And so
the guy's comforter is like, we're almost over, it's all...
Yeah, the female
yes.
part of the organization that was there with Baldy, kind of Baldy's little assistant friend there.
Yes.
And this whole time while this is going on downstairs, they're kind of playing house upstairs.
Yeah, they're playing out. They're the new house people.
Yeah, making lunch and got the coffee on the stove and all that kind of stuff. So the Baldy's female friend comes in, kind of cleans up Anna with a washcloth and is handling her in a very delicate manner and being very seemingly loving and very nurturing towards Anna at this point, with wiping her and just very in a very nurturing sort of way. And as John mentioned, she mentioned something to Anna about the fact that hey, everything will be good now. Everything's this is going to be the big moment here.
Yes.
So you're not really sure where this is going to be going now. And
probably have if you've seen stills and you've read the spoilers, but nevertheless, I wasn't prepared for it,
Yeah, and I mean, I had an idea from obviously speaking with you about some of the periphery of the story, but so they bring Anna into a very antiseptic sort of room that looks like a operating theater.
Exactly.
And they strap Anna in, and at this point, Anna is basically sans hair. Her hair is gone. She's gaunt. She's emaciated. She's been broken down. She just looks like just a horrid wreck. Obviously, that you can imagine, bruised, blackened eyes. She can barely open her eyes because they're swollen shut from the beating that Baldy has bestowed upon her numerous times. And so they strap her onto this sort of table. It's like a free suspension sort of table that's in this operating theater. And they kind of alter it to where the table has her face down to where her back's up in the air.
Yeah.
And then they start commencing to de-skinning her.
Yes.
And they cut away from that, and they cut back to apparently like after they're done with this particular medical procedure, and you see that at this point, Anna has basically her skin cut off.
Exactly.
And she just looks like a muscular torso.
Except for her face.
And she is still alive. Albeit maybe barely, but she...
So you have a Clive Barker novella thing, Hellbound Heart. It's all...
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like Frank's character from Hellraiser.
Exactly. But I think probably special effects done much better. And it's funny because the director, Pascal Laugier, was up for the remake of Hellraiser for a while.
Oh boy, another remake.
He was slated to direct them. Maybe they said, okay, he did one skin guy in Martyrs. Maybe he can do another skin guy in Hellraiser. But anyway,
is Kristen Stewart going to be in that remake too?
Perhaps. Kristen Stewart's in everything.
Oh, great.
We hope.
All right.
Yes.
God, wow. The remakes, just they're just fabulous. So, Anna is.
And they suspend her, right? First of all, they put her. She's in this kind of Christ pose for a while, right?
Yeah, it looks almost like one of those devices or little things that you see people strapped in that are like the 0G sort of rides that they put kids in or something.
Yeah, they let her hang out for a little while.
Yeah. So at this point, we basically have the filmmaker having our attention drawn back to Baldy and his little friend, the female friend, upstairs, and
he cleans himself, right? This is the point where he goes up and professional.
Yes, he gets in he gets in the shower and kind of washes himself up downstairs, the shower that's in that subterranean area.
Yeah.
Getting himself very pristine and get all of the blood and the remnants from the procedure off that they were involved with Anna, with her de-skinning.
Yeah.
And he goes upstairs, and one of the things that they depict in the film at this point is that apparently Baldy has missed a small area of blood on the back of his neck that seemingly came from Anna from the procedure that occurred.
Yeah.
And what I'll do is I'll kind of explain what happened, then we can kind of go back and talk about it.
Yeah.
Baldy goes upstairs. We kind of follow his character with the camera. Goes upstairs. The camera showing us his activities. He goes up and he kind of looks in the mirror and he sees that he's got a little bit of blood on his neck where he might have missed, obviously cleaning himself up on his procedure. And he... at this point, his female friend starts yelling for his attention to come to her. That obviously something's occurred there at the house. So Baldy runs over to his female friend and she says it's time that we need to basically the time is here, and you're kind of like wondering okay, what are they talking about?
Yeah. Never seen anyone like this.
Yeah, she's never seen anyone like this, referring to Anna's character. Yes. And at this point, obviously, Anna's been, basically she's just been kind of beaten down.
Yeah.
And she's still alive. And they make a decision to, at this point, they're going to get in touch with Mademoiselle and her group with their agenda. And call Mademoiselle in because they say it's time.
Yes.
The time is here.
and they think they've got a real martyr at this point because they're seeing something in her eyes they aren't seeing the others.
Yeah, that's something that we should have explained earlier, was that these individuals that are being grabbed and subjected to this sort of activity, the Mademoiselle explained to Anna that these individuals are being used as martyrs, obviously, hence the name of the film.
Yes, but it has a kind of a duality.
We'll get to that.
Yes.
Because initially you're introduced to the meaning of the term martyr as being that these individuals, including Lucy, and at this point in the film, Anna, leading her character into being martyrs for this cause of the agenda of the Mademoiselle and her group and what their agenda is. So these people are basically being used as sort of guinea pigs for the end game of Mademoiselle and her group and what their end game and their agenda is. So Mademoiselle shows up. They excitedly rush her down to Anna for the Mademoiselle to basically confirm in her mind and to basically satiate her any sort of question she may have that in fact Anna is legitimately seeing something maybe on the other side, or that she has some sort of foreknowledge as to what awaits on the other side.
Yes.
And when they take her to when they take Mademoiselle to the subterranean area, Anna's there and she's being immersed in some sort of saline, is the way I took it, some sort of saline solution to keep her, viable, at least till Mademoiselle can be there before she would expire.
Yeah, it reminds me of something on Minority Report. They got the little, Yeah. So, basically, at this point, the Mademoiselle leans down and basically is indicating, is there something that you can tell me? Like, what do you have to tell me about what's on the other side? What have you experienced? What can you tell me about this experience, death? And we, at this point, see Anna lean over, and she tells Mademoiselle something, but we can't hear it as the viewer. We can't hear what exactly. And I didn't go back to actually put on the closed captions just to see if something maybe was on there. No, there's nothing on there.
Okay. So,
did you watch the French version? Is there an English dub? Or?
I watched the English dub.
You watched the English dub?
I was being a little lazy that night and just decided I wanted to hear.
Is it a good English dub? Or I don't know.
I think it was Kristen Stewart.
It was Kristen Stewart who did it. Well, I don't know, because the French version is so great. The Mademoiselle is told this little bit of information from Anna, and I believe at that point we cut to Mademoiselle, like basically there's kind of a jump ahead time-wise, and you see some limousines arriving at this suburban house where our story is taking place. And these limos pull up, and it's very interesting because the people that are getting out of these limos, they're very immaculately dressed. They're very... they're all old.
Yeah, they're all older people. They seem like very kind of real sketchy, sort of nefarious sorts of types, men and women, dressed in their regal sort of coats, and very, very high-end, wealthy, very almost like snobby sort of royalty almost is what these people look like. Yeah. And they've been called to the house to basically, from what we're told by a couple of the characters we're introduced to at this point in the film, they've been called because Mademoiselle has called a convening of this group of elites. And she has something that she wants to tell them, that she believes that she has what they've been waiting to hear for a long time, which is what awaits them on the other side, or something important. Yes.
The testimony of the martyr, basically.
Yes. And now these people... you're never really told, or it's never really explained in detail. You have to kind of read between the lines as far as what who these people are, what they represent, what faction of society they may represent. You might have people. I mean, this could run the gamut from your people that maybe believe that they represent like the Illuminati or something.
Yeah. To me, they were always the bourgeoisie. They were always the upper class. I mean, even the whole arrangement of the subterranean torture chamber above this kind of calm suburban, you could read a lot into that. If you were of that bend, you could read a lot into what that means symbolically. Yeah,
for them to have that sort of regimented sort of military hand to carry out things, and I'm assuming, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I'm assuming that it seems like with their status and their wealth that they've been able to basically buy getting away with murder, literally. So to me, they kind of struck me as being not so much a social class as they are some sort of, there's something to that organization. There's something going on there where these people, they're not just like, the old folks that want to hang on to their youth. I mean, there's some sort of agenda at play here, and
they're scientists probably.
Well, yeah, but there's something there. But scientists would intone that they're more of like a social elite who utilize maybe some skill or experience that certain members have for the field of medicine, but most doctors are interested in preserving life and not.
There's a kind of amoralistic kind of streak amongst them.
Yes.
So we're talking about as we get to the end. I don't know.
So
I've lost
the mouthpiece for the group. They're all convening in the living room area of this palatial home where the events of the film take place, in the upstairs portion, of course, at this point. And they've called all of the wealthy elite in this group. There's probably, I don't know, like, 25, 30 of them?
Yes. And they're listening to the spokesman, Etienne, talk about what Mademoiselle has found. While Mademoiselle is up in the
master bedroom.
Master bedroom getting ready, sequestered.
Yes, and behind closed doors, obviously. Yeah. And this Etienne character, he's an older gentleman, goes upstairs and knocks on the door at this point in the film. And he's apprising Mademoiselle that the guests have convened and they're downstairs and they're waiting for the big denouement for Mademoiselle and to basically inform the group of what she's learned. Yeah. And at this point, Etienne basically asks Mademoiselle, is this viable information that you got from Anna? Is there any doubt? Was his words, I believe his exact words. Yes. And Mademoiselle indicates that there's no question, there's no doubt that she definitely has a definitive answer.
Yes. And while she's doing this, she's taking herself apart, taking her face apart.
Well, I mean, not
literally, but
literally in a way, not physically, but in a thematic sense. Yeah. She's Mademoiselle's character. She's a bit like borderline on being elderly, but she's made up with the fake eyelashes and the heavily caked on makeup and the lipstick. So she's her as well as the group. It's intoned are very much into holding on to that humanness to them, which is all just aesthetics. Yes. So the Mademoiselle at this point asks the character Etienne, "Do you still harbor doubt as to what happens at the point of death?" Yeah. And he indicates to her that he does have doubt. And Mademoiselle says, at this point, out of nowhere, she retrieves a pistol from her purse, puts it in her mouth, or before putting it in her mouth, tells the character of Etienne, well, continue to doubt.
Yes, keep doubting. Blows her head off.
Yeah, and thusly ends her life.
Yes.
rather abruptly.
Yes, and abruptly ends the film, and then there's that weird end scene where we see Anna floating in the water, and we get the close-up into her eyes as we drift off into wherever she's going.
Yeah, it's you're not really sure. Yeah, you're not really sure if this is something that she's actually experiencing, i.e., like some sort of afterlife experience of some sort of heavenly sort of experience, or if it's a hallucinatory sort of experience she's having.
Synapses in her brain just kind of firing off at the end.
Yeah, but
it's beautiful. It's a beautiful image to end such an ugly film and not such a bloody film. It's this beautiful, ephemeral digital imagery. It's just great.
Yeah, what as the viewer we're subjected to at this point is basically we're kind of taken into Anna's eye and what she's perceiving, either in her consciousness as it's fleeting away from her. We're taken down this. It's a tunnel effect, but it's very bright and vibrant.
Yeah, I've never quite seen that kind of digital effect. It's a far more, or maybe organic version of the Stargate. You know,
that's what I was thinking from 2001.
Yeah, but it's very original in some ways.
So you're left with some questions, obviously, because you're like, well, okay, was Anna in fact experiencing something tangible in the afterlife, or was it, as John said, just like some sort of experience that she was having with her synapses firing off at the moment of her losing consciousness and in effect dying?
Yeah. But get into the whole thing, Mike, of I love your read of the end of the film. I love, because I think a lot of people, when they watch this, there's this fixation on what did Mademoiselle, what was she told by Anna? Did Anna tell her that there was an afterlife? Did they tell her not? And I think it's avoiding the bigger issues and what the end of the film really means. And I think you really articulated that very well.
Yeah, John and I had a discussion about this. The day after I viewed the film, John was interested in what I thought, being a first-time viewer of this film experience.
Absolutely.
This is probably going to cover quite a broad spectrum of the film as a whole, and the themes primarily is what we're discussing at this point.
Yeah.
I believe, obviously, there's some of what we're talking about is very obvious, intoned what the filmmaker was wanting very clearly, and some of it obviously may just be personal opinion.
Yeah, but there's a lot of it that I think is well founded. I think your opinion is very well founded. There's a lot of things to back it up.
As we're introduced to Lucy at the beginning of the film, we are basically seeing Lucy kind of from a point of view that Anna holds, which is this is a character that Lucy, that is, that her character is one that we believe has been subjected to really horrendous activities at the hands of this group. Just from what Lucy's telling Anna, mind you, at this point in the film. And we see Anna transition into a character having tremendous guilt of seemingly questioning the validity, I guess, if you will, of what Lucy has shared with Anna about Lucy's experiences prior to about the midway point of the film.
Yeah.
And then we see Anna transition into the one who's sort of carrying the story the rest of the way through. And I believe that the conclusion of the film, to me, you mentioned the point about Anna and the question about what exactly she said to Mademoiselle. Yeah. I don't believe that that's not what the film hangs on, is what was said.
But what it causes.
But yes.
Yeah.
And I've done a little research on the internet and kind of read different people's take on the film, and I know that there's a contingent of people that have viewed this film that see it as, well, Mademoiselle and her group kind of were the ones who, I guess, sort of got away with it I guess if you could use that term, by the end of the film, kind of got away with their agenda, seemingly. But my take on this film is that Anna, in her final act of humanity, did the one thing that she had in her power, because she was subjected to horrendous things like Lucy was. She was broken down physically, obviously. She was broken down quite a bit emotionally.
Stripped of everything.
Maybe spiritually, you could say, even. Or whatever.
Stripped of everything.
The focus of this, to me, was on Anna's character. What is the one thing that she would be able to do to, in an act of comeuppance or revenge for what this group has done, not only to Lucy, but to countless people that at the hands of Mademoiselle and her group and their agenda, the one thing that she would be able to do to strike a blow to them would be to give Mademoiselle the impression that all of this has been for naught. So I had the impression through watching how the events transpired at the conclusion of the film that, as I said, it's not important specifically the wording of what was said, but I believe Anna imparted upon Mademoiselle that this has really all been for naught because there is nothing, that you just die. Yeah. And thus, what that does is it deprives the Mademoiselle of the most important thing that has driven her and this group and their agenda, which is this hope, the word hope, that there is something on the other side.
Yeah.
And in doing that, you have this complete juxtaposition of Anna being a martyr in the sense that she's just being a bit of a guinea pig for this group and their agenda. She's a martyr for the cause of Lucy, actually, and the victims of this group. Yeah. And what I believe occurred was whatever she said to the Mademoiselle basically stripped the Mademoiselle of this hope of what they were wanting to find out, because Mademoiselle specifically seemed to be very convinced that there is something in the afterlife. There's something there. They just needed to have a taste of it or a touch of it. And the only way to do that was to use these quote-unquote martyrs as a conduit for them to be able to touch the afterlife. Yeah. So, in essence, Anna circumvented all of this. And the one question we don't know is if she really did experience something and she lied to the Mademoiselle, or if she was being honest and just shared with the Mademoiselle, I'm right at the precipice. I'm right there at the edge, and there's nothing here.
Yeah, you see, the thing is, I think no matter which way you think about it, I think the one thing that you can agree on is that what she told Mademoiselle had a causal effect. It caused her to kill herself. And whatever you believe about the film, it did cause that. It caused her to commit suicide.
Which, in essence, is the losing of the hope that Mademoiselle had. Yeah. Which, if you're looking at it from the point of view of, did Anna accomplish that if that was her goal? Yeah. You would have to say yes, because obviously, because of the events that transpired, Mademoiselle killed herself by shooting herself. And it was done, Mademoiselle, as she's depicted in her final moments in the film, she very clearly is, she's not like frenzied about taking her life. She just seems just kind of like
well, she's kind of in that kind of existential French torpor, I guess that's a term you could use. But I mean, getting back to this, kind of jumping back a couple seconds, I think it's a very important bit of dialogue from the beginning of the film. Remember when Lucy and Anna were children, that the doctors, the caretakers asked Anna, and she told them that she felt that her job was to protect Lucy, that was to punish the people that did this to her. So that really becomes full circle in the end when she eventually gets the Mademoiselle to kill herself.
Yeah, because I think Anna, her character, not only in the way that she protected, or in a nurturing sort of sense, Lucy, and the way that she also tried to nurture and save, if you will, the female captor that she came across when she initially went to the subterranean area, that by the conclusion of the film, this was Anna's only ability to affect some sort of humanity to the events that unfolded by allowing her to completely derail whatever the agenda is that this organization had. Because if you think about it, she basically has her comeuppance with the Mademoiselle, but also this group, there was a tremendous blow that you would have to think was struck to them as well, because this was kind of the Mademoiselle ending her life, and in the manner that she did so, after convening this group, you get the impression that this group, not only Mademoiselle, but this whole group, like the whole thing's just been derailed because of this, because they were waiting to get this message of what occurs on the other side.
These years of research and study and torture.
And these people in the organization are depicted as they're very cold, they're very ambivalent to just the whole nature of what is going on with these people, what they're subjected to at the hands of the organization, and what lengths they have to go to reach their end game. And if you look at all this, Anna did the one thing that you would think is putting yourself in that character's point of view. If you had the ability to kind of strike a blow against the organization or Mademoiselle or all of the above, the way that she does that is the way it's depicted, which is she completely just derails their whole little thing that they got going on.
Yeah.
In that one act, and as I said, she's been physically beaten down. I mean, obviously literally, as well as she's basically she's got nothing left to lose, so to speak. So this is her comeuppance, and I walked away from the film looking at it as Anna's the hero of the whole piece. Anna was able to honor what occurred to Lucy in the only way and the best way possible, considering the fact, she's lost the equivalent of her sister at the hands of these people, even on top of like all these atrocities that they reference that have occurred to like these individuals that we're not introduced to, that there have been a seemingly endless supply of individuals that this organization has basically tortured and done these horrible things to, that Anna has decided her last act of humanity before she dies is to strike the blow for these people that they're no longer around. Yeah. And she's kind of the figurehead at that moment to use her last act of humanity and her last act of life to strike a blow against this I guess you could use the term evil group of people. But this organization, they're
such a fascinating group of folks, aren't they?
Yeah, because I mean they're depicted as like the country club, yacht club sort of set, and they're all impeccably dressed, and it's just very creepy that these people are just so, they're not like some weird sort of like occult group, on the surface at least, that might be intoned and maybe like that's up to the viewer to decide, but they're not like people running around in black cloaks and doing crazy occultic activity. Yeah. They just seem very cold, very sterile, cold, agenda-driven sorts of elites that are just looking for, that these martyrs, so-called, are just fodder for the machine.
Yeah, yeah. And do you think they probably got, I don't think they have, it's martyrs plural. I think they probably got these other machines in other parts of the city, of the country. I don't think this is the only torture chamber they have.
Yeah, and see, and that implies that it's not just like a particular, like, sort of class. I took it as meaning it was like some sort of, like, maybe hidden group, you can get into like weird conspiratorial fringe thinking on some of this stuff, but I kind of took it as being like some sort of elitist sort of organization, because to get away with what they've done, and they allude to the fact that through the photos, the usage of the photos, that this stuff has been going on since like, years beforehand, and you're not sure, because when Mademoiselle's presenting the photos, some of them, if I recall, go back to like the 1930s, but you're not sure if her and her organization were privy firsthand to these events with these particular individuals, or if they just happen to be photos that have been collected from, I believe one guy was like burned, within like literally an inch of his life, and what they did was the photos were capturing these individuals at the moment of their
martyrdom.
Yes. So this group, you're never shown the group after that. Obviously the film concludes at that point, but I went away from this film being very, it was very uncomfortable after watching it. It definitely, the film stuck with me, and I still think about it. It's very creepy. It's not creepy like, hey, I'm afraid to go to bed at night because, there might be like some sort of like 80s slasher serial killer like hiding in my closet or something, but it's it's the sort of creepy, uncomfortable, unsettled feeling that you get when you experience something like that. And it's the same sort of thing you get from like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre sort of film, which is you're just very, you're affected, you're very uncomfortable. And The Exorcist was the same way with me personally, where you maybe albeit with The Exorcist, with like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre sort of film or Martyrs, this is a believable scenario that can occur. We're not dealing with like vampires or zombies that have crawled out of the local cemetery. I mean, we're dealing with the evil of man's inhumanity to man for ulterior motives or goals or whatnot, and it's very unsettling seeing what these people, the lengths they were willing to go to, and that sort of bad or that sort of ill will or evil that lurks on the underlying appearance of like suburban life, and how at like any moment you can be taken from your comfort zone into a world of complete horror.
Yes. Well, I think we had a good discussion about Martyrs. I think it really brought out. I'm glad we had this discussion. I hope we can get together again and have some more talks about strange and unusual films. But until next time, my name is John Hand, and this is Mike Engel, and have a great day.